and now we are going in the new energy of the Virgo gate and gene keys. So this transition is one of the most interesting one, and I think Virgo is such a surprise. It's a sign that just, you know, you need a lot of time and energy to understand the Virgo beneath the surface. So I'm very happy we can explore this, and greetings to the Virgo friends around. So I start saying a general opening about Virgos, and then if you said you know a lot of Virgos, so I'll have you continue. For me, Virgo is the absolute priestess energy, priest or priestess energy. I find they are just amazing in that. The combination between spirituality and sensuality is top level in Virgos. And I think they have a way of hiding it very well through the mental organizing skills. But if you take that off, like just close that Excel, you will see a great shamanic energy. You will see people who are inclined to do rituals, who are inclined to live healthy, who just know how nature works. So yeah, don't get yourself fooled by just the organizational part of it, because there is much deeper truth in the Virgo. What do you feel about them?
Yeah, so being Taurus, because it's another earth sign, and for me, I'm kind of quick. I have my Mercury in Gemini, so I like that they are an earth sign, but they're a little bit more quick. They're a little bit more like kind of moving, and the groundedness and the detail, the eye for detail. And sometimes for me, I don't need to have all the points down. I don't need to make a workbook. Like I come in and I just kind of want to share with the world like you and I do. And then I work with Ashley, who is a Virgo, and she's going to have a workbook, a PDF for people to print out. And I really appreciate that she does that. But for me, there is something sometimes boring with that kind of detail. The detail is interesting when I'm in investigation mode, but not when I'm in, like, not when I have to kind of do that kind of groundwork, you know? And I agree with the priestess energy too, because, or, you know, the body as something sacred, and also virgin is, you know, it's the kind of the woman that nobody could own. She didn't become a wife. She became somebody that was there to work with energy and transmute energy, but she was never tainted by whatever energy transmutation that she was in. And I think that that's something we have forgotten, like, you know, speaking about the golden age and the split, like as women, I think that we have the ability to be in that Shakti that we spoke about in the 29, that we're going to speak again about, that we were able to go into the energy and with that Shakti transmute anything and then come back and be, and, you know, kind of integrate in our own energy. And I believe that there's something there that we might have forgotten. And many women, many men too, the feminine in both women and men sometimes just holds, you know, that pain and that suffering, that actually the body and the energy and the earth element has everything it needs to transmute that and transform that. And that's what I can see in Virgo. That's what I can see in even like in sexuality with Virgo. It's like they are there to serve the other somehow. They are there to feel the other, and they can, like, they understand the body in a way that is inherent. So even like artists, like I know several Virgos that are artists, a different kind, I guess also because it's the polarity with Pisces, but they can be artists in interesting ways that are often maybe more grounded with kind of dance or music or rhythm, but they have a kind of rhythm in life for sure.
Oh, that's so nice. Can we be Virgos for a week? It sounds like such a cool energy. So, yep, let's go. Let's dive in it. So we'll start with the 29. As we mentioned in the Leo energy, 29 is a cusp energy. So it goes from Leo and starts at the Virgo in your European system. And what I find Virgo-like about the 29 is mainly the CD part, because devotion, that's something Virgo really knows how to do. And it's being devoted in so many different ways. And I think when I listened to Richard's contemplation, what was really interesting for me is he said that we are all devoted to something. We just have to see what we are devoted to, because you might be a seeker and you might be devoted to knowledge, or you might be devoted to your family or to your art, as you said. So we all are devoted to something. And I think Virgo, as you said, is devoted to service, is devoted to family, is devoted to the pure truth. So it's really a huge Virgo energy, and a beautiful way of going to the earth element and that knowledge of the earth. So yeah, it's a nice one. I really like it. And I think the waters you just presented in, the waters here, I think it's the connection with Pisces, as you said. And I work with the earth placement many times. So people having their sun in Virgo usually have the earth in, well, usually all of the time they have the earth in Pisces. So it's what's nurtures them. Finding that inner waters give them the energy to be of service. So yeah, nice one. What did you want to add? Sorry.
Yeah, I love that you're speaking about the city, and I was thinking about the gift frequency that is commitment. And I can see this, like working with Anna, for example, like for her, it's important to have the detail of the commitment. For me, it's like, okay, if I've spoken to you and I know that we are on the same page, like I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm happy to move on. But with her, it's like, okay, she can hear that and she is going to ask a little bit more questions and details than I will. And she also wants to have a written agreement. And if she doesn't have that agreement, she doesn't feel like okay or safe. The groundwork, the earth, the foundation is not there to move on. And I can actually appreciate that, because many times, you know, I know that it's very important to have an agreement written to look back at, or like some kind of, because humans, we're messy, so we forget and then we think we did something different. So I do appreciate, again, similar to with Ashley, that kind of groundwork where things are, and you can go back and you can look at what's been done and filed and, you know, written. So yeah, that's a commitment. And the reciprocity, like knowing the other person's commitment before you devote yourself, that seems like an important thing for the 29.
Yes, nice energy. So moving forward to the 59, my lovely 59, my south node is in Virgo. So if we base the theory of past lives, I've been a Virgo in the past lives, or had Virgo type energy 2 times in my chart, both the south nodes. And it's one of my most favorite keys. Last year when the transit was, I wrote an article about it, did a video about it. For me, it's the energy of, I named it the energy you caress the feathers of the phoenix. I think 59 has that power of intimacy to wake up the phoenix. For me, 59 is definitely hand in hand with 55. And it's, people having 59, they just have a way with intimacy. They know how to use intimacy to wake something up. It's one key that brought a lot of trouble in my life because of that. And I spoke with other people having 59. It's like, when does intimacy start and when does it end? When is intimacy? Many people have struggled with that if they have 59, because it's so easy having 59 to enter the intimacy of the other, to be intimate with the other in so many different ways. Sometimes it's being too intimate. And I think that that's a huge lesson in 59, to use the power of intimacy, not necessarily translate intimacy in just one way, but see the many layers it has. I find here that we have this kind of very sensual energy of the Virgo, that ability to just be close to the body, be close to the other. The bonding type of energy is very strong here. So it's a very nice one. I really like it. It's a very nice key, and I think it's very useful in charts of people that work with other people. It makes you a very tender type of therapist, or I don't know, psychologist or whatever. It makes you just create intimacy in your work. It's like you're always at a coffee with the other one, or at the tea, just, you know, casual, even if they speak about, I don't know what problems. So it's that bringing in intimacy in your work, I think.
Yeah,
How is it for you?
I love everything you said. And I worked with a client who he was a 6'2", and I think 3 or 4 times in his hologenetic profile, he had a 59. It was life's work and IQ and somewhere else. And I would say that the 59 can actually be a tantric master, because it has that ability to penetrate, and it doesn't have to be physical penetration. It's actually more than anything energetic penetration. And the programming partner is the 55, which has to do with spirit and freedom. So I believe that kind of piercing people, or like being intimate with people, so that that spirit, that freedom can start to rise in them, in their own bodies. Like there is something physical and very physical, energetic, that goes together with this being a Virgo gate as well. Because, you know, you could think sometimes that maybe Libra is more, I don't know, romantic and more kind of Venus kind of love thing. But for sure in Virgo, like we have said, when you look, there is the body, the sexuality, like there's so much there that is tantric, and it's part of the codon ring of union as well, where it is about relating the 4, the 7, the 59, and the 29. Those are the 4 keys in the codon ring of union, which is about relating in a new way, with more understanding, with more inner guidance, with more intimacy, with more devotion. That's what the codon ring of union is. And there's also something here, though, because it's connected to the 6 in the programming, in the harmonic gate, which is about conflict. So I do feel like some people can be uncomfortable as well with the 59, like, wait, you know, kind of putting up their walls, like, why are you coming so close so fast, you know? And it's almost like the 59, sometimes I feel like you don't really have the same thing as if you're a Swedish person, you go to Spain, people are going to stand really close to you and speak in your face, and you're like taking a couple of steps back. And the 59 is kind of like, it doesn't really feel that appropriate distance, because it has its own measurement of that intimacy. So I kind of smile at them, and there is something too where I think it can even kind of break down when we're too prude, or when we have shame. Like it kind of is beyond that. It will go into the sauna naked with women and men, and if you would just, I think it needs freedom in a sense. That's what I could see with my client too. He needed freedom. But somebody, if he commits, is really trustworthy. But if he doesn't have the freedom to speak with people and to open doors and to play and to, you know, be free, then he it's like, again, a part of, like we were saying with the Leo gate, but a part of his genius was dying. And that's important to have that, to possibly be a bit unconventional in what ways you're intimate, and having the freedom to be that, and also the transparency, the honesty to tell the people around you how you relate, what's your way of relating is.
Thank you for sharing that. I felt it in all myself. What I find that Virgo energy here, I think it's that kind of priestess, many times even, you know, like creating rituals. And the border between, you know, types of intimacy, as I said, is very thin. So I feel that many times people having 59 have a lot to learn in creating healthy boundaries in a way, because just imagine you do a session or a therapy, you light candles, and it puts the other one in that kind of sensual state, and they're like, oh, I can get intimate with you. And then the 59 is like, no, it wasn't about that. I'm just creating. So I think many times us having 59 can create a very sensual type of environment, but it doesn't mean that we want you in our intimate, very intimate space. So it's like exploring intimacy, but in a very diverse way. As you said, we can have a spiritual conversation in a full of scents and colors environment, not necessarily go to sex or romance. And that's a provocation many people have with 59. I have friends with 59 that always told me, like, why did they start touching me? Did I give a wrong signal? Yeah, maybe. So, can you show us the illustration for it?
This is so interesting. It was one that Ashley wasn't able to bring through. So the only thing she did was the spirals of Kundalini or dragon energy. And then she didn't get further. And you can see even the website. This is kind of like code. So she wasn't like, there's something where she's been working she's been working with her own energy for years now, and she had 4 kids, and I'm kind of speaking personally about her, but she would tell you, like, I couldn't bring it through. And because she's the one, I work with the copy and I work with the content, but she works more with like putting the beautiful landing page together. And so, I mean, even if you're watching and you have some art, we're calling this archetype the playmate. So if you have some art that you think would work, you would help us out if you actually let us know, and then maybe we can have like a beautiful landing page again, even for the 59. So thank you for asking, Adela.
Please do it. Please do it. Yeah, maybe that's the collective part of it. Like, bring your art on. Yes. Well, Ashley does a great job. I'm very happy with what she does, and it's not an easy energy. So I can feel how that is just working that energy with you. Okay, so let's move forward to 40. 40 is another beautiful Virgo type of activation. So it's also a sacred seal. So as we had the sacred seal in the Leo, we have one here too. So activations that are also seals, I find they are a bit more provocative. So 40, I find 40 is a lot about the sacred work. Last year I wrote an article about this. I named it, the name, all of it, but anyway, it was being in love with the holy work or something like that. And I find that the Virgos usually love their work. As you said, they put them being of service, and they just love their work, and they just love working. Even if they're tired, sometimes they just love working. 40, I find it's a very interesting one. I just finished contemplating, you never finish contemplating, but anyway, I finished a week of contemplation with it. I find 40 to be, going from being exhausted to just having that strength to say no. When no is no, it's no for 40. And what I find interesting, I think we have the 29 that is the yes, and 40 that is the no. We have the power of yes in 29, and we have the power of no in 40. I find that 40 just knows, okay, I can work this for you, or I can be of service this much, but no, this stops. It's too much, or it takes too much of my energy, or I'm just not guided in that direction. And it's my attraction, 40, and my only sacred seal in the profile. And I really felt its energy in my life so many times. And I really liked what Richard said about it. It's the trimming. 40 needs to do a lot of trimming. And here I find it's the Virgo type of gardener in a way. I have to clean my garden, to trim my garden, my inner garden, because otherwise I will be exhausted. It's like putting energy and working in too many different areas, and 40 needs to be concentrated and to be aligned with the divine will and the divine power. So it's an amazing key. If you have it, do your job as a healer. It's a beautiful one. It's very much connected to the body, to the line one. Amazing key. I'm just in love with it. And the sacred work, I think that's very important here. I put my will and I put my force into working and providing for people, and that's the beauty of it. How do you see it?
Yeah, we call it the father, and it doesn't have to be masculine, but we call it the father because the 37 and the 40 often, that's a tribal channel that we often see like that. And it's that beauty of a father that you can really trust, and I can say, so I grew up in Sweden with a Swedish mom and a Spanish dad, and he was different. And he's a little bit more spicy, I guess, than Swedish men in his own way. And I mean, today I'm more attracted to men that are more like my dad than to men that are Swedish. But I remember as a child, like I looked at those dads that spoke like perfect Swedish. My dad didn't speak perfect Swedish, but I spoke Spanish to him. And they felt so trustworthy, and they were like doing the things the way, they were committed to the family and working for the family, and like being that father that you can really trust will provide, and that you can really trust, like gives their word that they're going to do something and they do it. That's very Swedish, but that's something that still today I can really appreciate. And something of what you said, it's like what I've seen in clients, because of course with the 40, there is always going to be at least a period of life or a situation where you have come to that exhaustion. And so what I see is that the 40 often learns to say no to the outer world. And they think like, finally, after this many burnouts, I learned to say no. But the thing is, like you are saying, the garden is the inner garden. So even when they can say no outwards, there is something inside of them, with that little Virgo motor or something, that still, even when they are burnt out, they're like, well, maybe I could just go through that wardrobe and like, trim out some clothes. And you're like, wait, but you're still burnt out. How can you even think about a wardrobe? What's wrong with you? But it's like, it's something inherent. So I think that inner voice of like, I have to do, or, I need to do, that's the one that you want to, in one way or another, balance. It's so much about the inner garden. And from that inner garden, that's also where, where we speak about the higher frequencies and the divine will. Like once you can have peace in your inner garden, that's when the seal opens, and I didn't share the screen yet, but this is, for me, this is Daniel Holman. So here you have that stairs, you like walk on that stairs. And then, but finally there is such beauty of surrender in this key. And that's a little bit the paradox between like the father that works hard, and then at the same time is surrender and divine will, and this Virgo energy that feels more like feminine. So I feel like there is some paradox inside the 40, that people that have the 40 and the 59, for example, in their pearl, because we know that there are two positions of Jupiter, and often they fall, in the gates that come after each other in the wheel. So a lot of people will have the 40 and the 59 in their pearl, and they're like, but I don't understand, like, how can I make money with surrendering and being intimate, And you're like, I don't know, like, I wish I could just open the portal to the seal so you can walk through it,
You can. Yeah. Wow, beautiful image. Yeah, Daniel is just such a genius. I love his work. Hi, Daniel. And I'm very intrigued by the two beings that are there. Just I'm very curious why he put the two of them. Let us know.
I think that's my fault, because he gave me the permission to use the art, and I think I chose this for the 40. So but for me, I guess that could be the balance of the 40 and the 37, that for me is here to be in all of us, inner equality and inner surrender. Like when we have that, we are in sacred union with ourselves. And then when you become sacred union with yourself, you become this enlightened being, I believe. And so, it's maybe all the same.
Beautiful one. Yeah, what I wanted to finish with here at 40, I think many, as you said, with the exhaustion, yeah, that's very true, and I'm like that too also. So I'm like, oh yeah, August, I need holiday, I won't do anything this August, and then I think the Virgo energy likes to be practical. So it's not, relaxing is not just laying somewhere dead. It's, you do something, you still do something. It's a gardener like of energy. You can't stop. Nature never stops. And it's the nature woman and nature man in Virgo. We have that kind of gardening, inner garden. What I find helps.
One more thing, like before you move on then later. No, but continue just before you move on to the next gate.
Okay. So what I wanted to add here is that many times I feel that people having 40 do need guidance, that divine guidance. So many times when I'm stuck and I'm like, I don't know what to do here, I am like literally asking for guidance. I'm like, hey, I'm all for your will. Just let me know. And I think this sacred seal is very much connected to divinity and like all the seals, but the answers come very quickly. And then you get that clarity, being in the will, you get that clarity. Yeah, this has to stop and this has to continue. So the no becomes very clear. Like, this is something I have to stop. So in case you have 40, do ask for guidance. It comes very fast and it's very clear. What did you want to share?
It wasn't what I was going to share, actually. I'm going to share that when we are in the next one. But I realized that my mom, I think that part even of her, psychologically, of her becoming worse, like in the sense that she can't even really do it much in the world, was that she had pushed herself so much in that 40 and open ego center that her unconscious kind of said, no, let me just kind of, you know, there's nothing more I can take on my shoulders, and I don't see any way out. And, you know, she could be a good example in that sense. Like, she didn't listen to her inner guidance for so many years. See, she's an emotional projector. She lived with my dad, who's a manifesting generator, and me, who's a generator, you know, and she tried to be a generator. And then, like, I think her unconscious just said, no, it's done. Like, whatever I need to do to not have to like live as a generator in the world with all this pressure on myself. So I would say to kind of be a little bit careful with that 40 well as well, and like to seek the guidance, you know, wherever it is that's right for you, but to not continue spinning the wheels, because there is that always that risk that you kind of spin them too much, and then the way back, we know that as human beings, you know, the way back, like everything, when you burn out your adrenals or your thyroid, you know, the way back to balance to that, it's always long.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. So let's move on to the 64. The 64, such a nice encompassing energy. Whenever I have to deal with the first gene key or the 64, I always remember that they are the covers of the book, the finishing and the end. So for me, 64 is a lot about just like the conclusion of all the keys. It's that kind of, maybe like a keeper of those sacred knowledge. I can imagine 64 to be like a mystic librarian of some sort that knows all the books and knows everything. Yeah, I find people with 64 to be really, they know a lot of stuff, and it's a deep knowledge. They just know it. It's so sacred. And I find that many times people having this type of Virgo archetype combine spirituality with practical knowledge in a beautiful way. It's just, I don't know many people having it, but the ones that do, they just, I don't know where they know all that stuff. So it's fascinating just to listen to them. It's like, wow. What I find really interesting here is that it's partnered with the 63, and 63 is a sacred seal, is looking for the truth. So I find this combination between 63 and 64 like the ones that look for the truth and embody it in a way. I think it's one of the highest vibrations of the Virgo and the Pisces energy. I put myself in service, and it's a kind of service to discover what the truth is. And it might be, I think it feels more like a very elevated type of Virgo energy. So it's maybe not as much the Excel type, but more like the priestessy, the mental type of priestessy energy. What do you feel about it?
I don't even know where to start. Like, there's so much I feel, and I like, it took me a while to actually start to love the 64. It took me a while because it felt like, oh, it's a gate in the head center, and I always felt it was more juice in the body, and the head and the ashna were like a little bit like less interesting. But I've completely changed the way that I look at it. Maybe starting from the end in a way, like this is after completion, but it means that nothing is ever complete, you know. Even after completion, there's always something more, and that's the whole ideology, we could say, of the I Ching, that there are cycles and cycles and cycles, and everything always changes. And this is Tantra, you know. On the bottom it has this yin line where we're never done. It's a continuous discovery of life. And here, in some way, it does go back to the 29 and that kind of energy. We see that the lower trigram is water. So same as the water goddess, the 29. I know so many people that have the 64 and that have the 63 as well. There are two crosses. So when you have, like you were saying, Adela, when you have the 64, you're automatically going to have the 63, and there are two crosses that you can have. So either you can have the 26 and the 45. And what I realize with these people is that they are very physically artful. Like one that I know, he has done decoration in houses forever. Like his brother forever. Like, and he learned by himself. He started when he was living in Colombia, and he was painting. It became super famous in in Colombia. He was doing these, the theater masks, you know, the two masks, the theater masks. So he would do them and make them, and then he would paint them all different. And they were like, they became super popular. And then his whole life, like when he's just created things, even, you know, even music. And that leads me to my partner, who is all about, he has this artfulness, both when it comes to his, like both when it comes to dance and to music and to song, but also like you can put a lamp in front of him that has 2,000 pieces from, like, not IKEA, I don't even think have that complicated things, but you can put anything in front of him and he's just going to put it together. There is this inherent, like this, the 26 has the artfulness of the gift. And it's so I think it's the Virgo energy. It's so practical, and it kind of just sees it. It's like with the 63 and the 64, you have the Virgo and the Pisces. You can kind of see the details, and you can kind of build the world and beyond. So for me, that's a super, super powerful cross with the 63, the 64, the 26, and the 25. And there are people, what I see, that are physical. They are really physical. Then we have Richard Rudd and the other people that have the cross of consciousness that has that with the 35 and the 5. And they, what I feel, are more kind of etherical, because boundlessness and timelessness, which is the 35 and the 5, you know, they're not as tangible as the 45 that kind of gathers things and is in the bond, the 26. So they are more like Richard Rudd. They are so inventive when it comes to their minds, when it comes to the traveling to other places beyond here. So that's a very different kind of energy, but somehow like the mystical artist more than the like kind of physical artist. And I know this was long, but I believe if you watch this and you have either the 64, the 63 together with the 25 and 26 and the 45, or with the 5 and the 35, you know, this can be, you know, you can think into yourself or to somebody, you know, because I've watched them and I see this and I love it. And for me, it is the artist, like the way the way that we named it. It is an artist, but there's so many different ways. And with this Pisces Virgo energy, like there are thousands and millions of ways of being an artist. And I believe that the 64, it's always like a unique artist. It's its own unique artist that is never stagnant, but always kind of evolving and imagining what's beyond and what's beyond, you know?
Yeah, beautiful one. Can we activate this for 1 week in our in our chart? My ex-husband has 63 as his life work, and he's an artist, and he does brilliant artwork. And what I wanted to share, it was funny, I remembered it now. So about 2 weeks ago, my fiance had some body work, and the person that came home and did the body work, I really felt he must have sacred seals somewhere. Can I do your chart? And of course, he had 64, 63, and this incarnation cross you're talking about. And when he prepared like his ritual and everything there, he took a small statue of a Buddha without a head, a headless Buddha. And I was, wow, that's so interesting. Where did you get that from? And I was like, trying to see. And he was like, I didn't get it from anywhere. I just dropped it one day, and the head of the Buddha but it was like, the body of Buddha, and it was like perfectly cut. It seemed perfectly cut without a head. And for me, that was like the 64 going towards the 65. And I always feel that people having this key, they're like looking for the next one. What would be like the 65, let's say, activation? And I think they just tune into something else. But the headless Buddha for me was like, oh yeah, I like this one. Yeah. Okay. So let's move forward towards 47. 47, another beautiful Virgo key, and one really intense one. 47 partners with the 22nd, and 22nd is quite a ride. I find that people having this too, especially if they are both in the profile, but even if you have just 47, you are here into a lot of transformation and transmutation. 47 from my perspective shows on the face everything you're going through. So for me, it's that kind of Virgo shamanic energy that just purifies and transmutes everything through the body, through the face. You can see them. And when I was contemplating this, I remember I did art at university and high school, and I remembered when they talked about the mystical ecstasy saints had, and the faces they had. You can look at sculptures done by Italians, or when you can see in marble, where you can see that faces where they suffer or they go through so many. That's 47 for me. Like when these people transform and transmute, you can see it. They are just someone else. And it's, I don't know, they rejuvenate very easily. It's brilliant. And I think here it's a lot related to the purification part of the Virgo. Virgo is obsessed with purification, be it of the physical body, of the surroundings, of everything. They need to purify, to reinvent all the time. And yeah, that can go into OCD and, you know, detoxing and everything. But with 47, it's a lot about using the body as a gate, I think. So this is my experience with them. I saw many people having 47. They go to spiritual classes or courses. You can look at your face and you will know if the environment needs purification or not. You can see it, if they are okay or not. So yeah, great couple of power here, 47 with 22. Yeah, the witchy.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we call it the alchemist because, like you say,
Mhm.
it's there, and it's not a joke. It's really in it. Like you say, it's a transmutation that is cellular, that goes really deep, because
Mhm.
in the frequency band, it's goes from oppression. It is breaking through from that oppression. And I know that Ashley did a interview with Kim Gold last year, and I mean, even the way that she's playing with the charts. I mean, I think it was Eleanor Haskell Porter from the beginning that started to do the interactive chart and the spiritual chart. But there is something, even how you can work with human design, where you start to see how can we look at it in a different way, so that we can alchemize some of the things that maybe weren't so obvious in Ra's work, for example. So they are here. And I mean, I do feel I can't help it, but I do feel compassionate, you know, and it's not to say I feel pity for, but, you know, there are people that are, I think maybe in their 50s, more or less, that have in the outer planet, they have 47, sometimes like 4 times. I guess it's Neptune and Uranus or something. And you're like, and then they have, for example, 47 and 22 is life, work, and evolution. And you're like, well, you know, you're like, I don't know what karma you're here to transmute, but I understand that it's a ride, you know. And that's when it also kind of becomes artistic in a way. The 22 is very artistic. It's that channel of openness. It goes from the emotional center to the throat. So it's here to be a poet, and it's here to kind of open people up through its own grace and suffering somehow. I feel like, yeah, there needs to be, the 47 is asking you to be brave. So if you don't find that courage and have the 47, like I believe it can feel like that oppression for a long time. I guess the thing that I want to just tie it back to the 64, because it's funny, they come after each other and they form this channel between the head and the ajna, which is abstract. So if the 63 and the 4 were logical, here we have the abstract. So here it's seeing patterns, like you say, these people come into a place or a group dynamic, and they can see the abstract patterns that other people can't see. So there is really this ability, and that's also why I believe they can be artful, because they can see those patterns that nobody see, and there is a wisdom and intelligence in that they can then use to alchemize and transmute.
Yeah, beautiful one. I love the illustration. I'm just curious. I don't know if it has any connection with the 28, but I was just thinking now, like 47 makes these potions here, everything. Who would test them? Like a 28 will go like, yeah, let's do that. Oh, I'm teleported into. I find, yeah, I don't know if it's any connection between them.
I mean, even the 11, I feel it's like, I want to see all the archetype. I want to try all the elixirs. Just got another idea.
Yeah.
Mix this together.
yeah. I think it needs that gut feeling type of energy. Like, okay, let's take this risk and teleport into a new. Yes. Okay. Let's move towards the 6. So the 6, it's another Virgo energy. The 6, as you said, it's that that conflict or diplomacy energy. And it's very interesting to have diplomacy here in Virgo. You would think it's in Libra, but it came earlier. It didn't wait. I used to attract a lot of people with 6 having 59. I was like, who has 6 here? Can I plug in? um, yeah, I find people with 6 fascinating. It's an emotional gate, a very interesting emotional gate, and the power they have to transmute that kind of conflict and go into diplomacy, and the way they can refine the way they relate to people. I find that brilliant in the 6, and I'm very happy I did a delta, and I recommend it to everyone who wants to go deeper. When I was in position 6, in the, not position, but in the gates 6, in the key 6, it was fascinating for me because I never saw the reality from the perspective of 6. I've always seen it from 59, and this time I changed my perspective and saw it from 6. What I found interesting about 6 working with my clients, I think 6 has an interesting way of getting into conflictual situation. It's not necessarily that they create conflict, but it's like they're there in the middle of something conflictual happening. And I find it's a lot about knowing how to deal with that emotional wave and to just breathe and find a balance inside to be diplomatic, to go towards intimacy in a very nice and interesting way. But yeah, this was what I found in it. They are not necessarily conflictual because they are conflictual, but it's like life catapults them in conflictual situations or with conflictual partners. And Virgo is not a conflictual type of sign. They're not into that. So yeah, it's interesting. And what sometimes happens, especially if it's the whole channel, I saw that conflicts might affect their intimacy. Many times Virgo clients I have, they are maybe ashamed to show their intimacy, or maybe they can't open up. And if there's a slight conflict, and that conflict can be with the self many times, yeah, they don't function, they don't flow normally. And I saw that, especially 9-6, yeah, they might have an interesting relationship with intimacy, conflictual. Yeah, what do you feel about it?
So here is what this is beautiful. And Ashley did, like, you're going to see it's going to change to this. I don't really understand what that has to do with a peacemaker, but this is her life's work. So I guess she has some idea about it. And also Anna. So both, like we said, both Ashley and Anna are Virgos, and they have the 6 as their life's work. And I also have a previous relationship with somebody who had it in their purpose. You know, I hear what you say, that they kind of end up in those situations of conflict and they're not so conflictual. Like, I would kind of like even poke a little bit and say, I believe that they have conflict inside, but they are so good because they're Virgo to deal with it and go into work, or, you know, not distract themselves to something not constructive, because basically Virgo always distracts itself with something constructive. And then you can't even see that there is a problem there. I believe that there is, when I think, yeah, I believe that there is a kind of a deeper thing that feels a conflict. And maybe it's not even, it's a conflict that other people will even be blind for in themselves. But I believe that the 6, because it's connected to the pH, and for example, the pH in the blood, if it just changes slightly, you know, your whole biology is off. So I believe that the 6 can go into a room and it can feel these slight things that are off. And often I do think that there is something deeper with that whole situation, that then they're there to kind of open up in themselves. There's something in that situation that's there to penetrate them, you know, in the 59. And what I do see is that, for example, Anna, who has the 6 and the 59, she relates through intimacy. She's a MG, a 1-3, so she's trial and error. She relates to people through intimacy. Like, she's all about, even before she was into Tantra, she was very much into, like, you know, the like free sexuality and polyamory, not so much polyamory, but like more like just relating through sexuality. Like, for her, that's a very normal thing. And the 1-3 needs to kind of try and to fall down and to understand a better way. And when we look at somebody who just have half of it, I often see more about the walls. And several people, I have quite a lot of people I work with a lot of sixes. And it's more that kind of thing. Like, I don't believe my pH can kind of go with you. So don't penetrate me. Like, it's like, or I feel like you have something that's slightly off. So I don't want to go there. So I would kind of say, I mean, not to give advice, but I know that the life lived without walls can be so much more pleasurable than the life lived with wall. And I would say you guys are, with the 6, you're priestesses. So you're here to feel that dissonance. And if you open up, just your energy is peacemaking. And you're here to transmute the way that we knew how to do before we forgot. So know that you have that inherent capacity and kind of tune into that instead of protecting yourselves to, falsely protecting yourselves through walls that aren't serving you, your heart, or the people around you.
Beautiful. Such a beautiful one. Yes. Yeah, I'll move into the Virgo archetype. Stay here a bit. So the last one from the Virgo is 46, the one that is cusping from Virgo to Libra. And yeah, it's a very, very Libra-like Virgo, this one. It has such an influence from Libra. So 46, I think the first line and maybe the second are into Virgo, but anyway, the beginning is the Virgo here. 46, I find it's a lot about being in the body, loving your body, treating your body like it's yours, and there it's a vehicle for you to live pleasure. And this is something I found so interesting in the Virgo clients. Many times it takes a lot of energy for them to realize they have a body and to love their body and to treat their body like a temple. I don't know where that comes from. I think it's a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, but many times, especially if Mars is there or Venus is there, these are clients who are just ashamed of their own sensuality. And as you said in the beginning, Virgo is an earth sign, and damn, it has a lot of sensuality. And 46, I think, is the key that maybe makes it easier to connect with the body. Maybe here we have the ones that are a bit more in tune with their body, a bit more looking towards that Libra energy and that Venusian. It's that type of interesting quality. What I would say here, I want to refer more to the planet. Mercury is the governor, the main governor of Virgo, but I will also look at Chiron when we work with the Virgo, because we have that healing capacity. But remaining to Mercury, Mercury is associated with alchemy and also with sexuality. So I find that 46 here encompasses that knowledge and the body and how they can blend in very nicely in the Virgo. So yeah, Virgos having 46, I think they are the sensual type of Virgos, and yeah, nice energy. What do you feel about you have 46? So
yeah.
Oh,
This is Ines Honfi, the artist who did this painting. And so this is my Mars, my EQ. And I have it exactly, you could say, on the cusp between Virgo and Libra. It's 46.3 and it's 0 degrees Libra. I absolutely can see, I can see the inherent knowing of the body and of sensuality that was there from the very beginning. But having the 46 in the EQ and the 25 in the IQ, those being programming partners of constriction and seriousness, I could see how I took life too serious, which was conditioning for my completely open ego of being perfect in school, of having all the best results and all these things, which took me away from the body. Because if you have to sit on a chair and study even at 4 o'clock in the morning still, like when you go to bed, your body just feels like completely handicapped instead of feeling sensual, and you don't even have time to have a boyfriend, so that's the way that I starved myself for so many years. I don't know, we go to school for 20 years. I mean, there was some adventure and some, summer vacations in that time, but like very much a long time of my adolescence was that constriction and that seriousness that didn't allow me this. But the thing for me is that I think that's the thing, I always knew it was there. I always wanted to grow up so I could decide for myself, and I didn't have to have like somebody who was going to grade me. And I believe it's funny because as we are in the gene keys, we often look at the attraction sphere and we say, how are you in intimacy? What's your sexual wound? And for me, I have the 31.6 there. So I resonate with that sixth line when it comes to the disappointment, but also the innocence and the ecstasy, you know, and ecstasy is exactly the city of the 46. So I can see how that goes together. And I was listening to one of my favorite astrologers from Brazil the other day, and she was speaking of Mars as how we relate sexually. And it was so funny because I was when I heard her speak about Virgo, Mars in Virgo, and having, you know, that more healing effect, and feel the body of the other and want to be in service. Like I could so easily have been, you know, a sexual worker, in the sense like working with the energy through the body with the Kundalini and have the energy flow. That's like so natural for me. But I think also because of, like, you know, my mind and what I think, you know, I didn't go there because, and it's also not an easy job to do, to have to transmute all that energy, but that's there. But then at the same time, the Libra and that harmony and that, you know, the whole thing that is very Venusian, it's also what I can feel. So it was interesting for me, at least, to look at what is this energy of the 46, and it feels just so rich, you know, there's so much in it. And it can take on those Virgo qualities, or more the Venus qualities of love and harmony, and like really wanting to feel the harmony on all kinds of levels, the body and the heart. Like that's what Libra does. It wants everything to be in harmony and beautiful. And so I really appreciate the 46 a lot. And I think, if I remember right, that's a temple when we speak about global cycles and Ra. So it's like, this is your temple, and there's nothing else you can really unlock if your temple isn't intact. So I believe, and I also felt this week very much, because Venus went into the 46, and through that Virgo and then Libra, and I could feel my body kind of asking me to go and get the massage, and then like even feeling kind of the tingling more of like that pleasure in my whole body than I usually do if I get a massage, and just, you know, floating away in pleasure kind of thing.
Yes, it's an amazing.
That was long, but that was my story. So if you have any similar activations with the 25, the 46, then maybe you have a similar pattern somewhere.
Yes. Very nice one. Thank you for sharing. It's such a pretty one, and I feel 40 has that energy too. Well, it's not that sensual, but it's also a very tribal-like energy. So people having 40 need that contact with the skin. So yeah, nice one. So we should all get a massage right now. Yeah, thank you for being here and sharing. Thank you. This was very nice.
Yeah, Adela, is there anything else that you want to add about Virgo, or about where we're going next, or is there anything you want to add?
Well, I'll wrap up the Virgo and say that it's a very profound energy, and with many layers. So we have here, as I said, the priest, the priestess, the sacred prostitute many times. I feel it's not for the faint of heart to start working with the Virgo. Last year, I started a series about priestess energy. And what was really interesting is that people were so much into it. They were like, yeah, I want to join. And then when we made the course, they were ashamed to share stories, ashamed. So I feel it takes a lot of courage to start working with the Virgo archetypes and seeing that transparency and that energy that's inside you. So I find Virgo to be a really strong archetype. So yeah, this is my wrapping up of Virgo, and we'll head next and meet in the autumn and speak about the Libra. I know you have many Libra placements, so can't wait for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.